Hello, my wonderful, beautiful friends. Welcome back to our /Entitled People, where many of you come to hear stories about people who think that the world revolves around them and that nobody else matters. My friends, in this episode, you're going to hear 6 entitled people stories, so buckle up. The first story is about a group of religious women who won't stop praying at work. The second story, a Karen tries to fire up because he's not a mind reader. And the third story, where a woman tries to steal someone's face mask while they're wearing it. Jeez, I hope you stay for the stories today, and do hit that subscribe button for future entitled people stories. My friends, let's dive in. This first story is titled, Religious Women with Rights at Work. Long ago, I worked at a company with a group of super religious women. They would stand together every morning in front of their desks, holding hands, loudly praying about whatever. Their cubes were cluttered with all things Jesus-related, and at lunch, they would get together to read their Bible while they ate. I'm not judging, I'm just explaining about them. So, I was the subject matter expert for something work-related and was asked to train these women on it. The day of training, I was maybe 3 seconds into my presentation when one of the women stopped me and claimed that they hadn't had their morning prayer yet. The women all stood up and started reaching for each other's hands to pray. One of them reached over the table to take my hand, but I didn't move. I just sat there, watching in shock that they would do this. When she waved her hand at me impatiently, signaling I wasn't doing what she wanted, I spoke up and said, "Ladies, please sit down. You can do this after our meeting. We're already 10 minutes in, and this meeting is work-related. What you're doing is not. We have a lot of material to cover." The looks on their faces were as if I'd smeared dog poo across the table and rolled naked in it. Lady number 1 says, "We talk to God together every morning." I told her, "That's nice, but that's before work, and now we're at work, and no offense, but we're literally in the middle of something." Lady number 2 says, "This won't take long, and you'll be glad you took the time. Imagine how much better your day will be once you've spoken to our Lord and Savior." I cut her off and said, "No, please sit down, let me finish this, and then you're more than welcome to do what you need. I'm not a religious person, so I'm not comfortable watching this or being involved." The women gasped at me, but none of them said anything, so I just kept the presentation going. After a few seconds, they looked at each other and grabbed hands and started to pray loudly over me, ignoring what I was saying. Deciding I wasn't going to waste my time, I packed up my stuff and closed my laptop and walked out of the room. I went to my boss, who took me to HR. I told the woman what just happened, and she admitted that others had complained about the loud prayers, but they hoped it wouldn't go beyond that. As we're standing there talking, we see the same group of women walk smugly through the area and disappear into the HR director's office. They were there to file a complaint against me. They claimed I was disrespectful to them and had denied them the right to be a Christian. They were threatening to sue me and the company for infringing their rights. And in the end, the legal team had to get involved, and it became a huge thing. When all was said and done, the women were told they could no longer pray openly in the office. The company had pulled a meeting room for them, so they had a private place to go. But that wasn't good enough. The first day after they were told not to pray publicly, they stood proudly in the center of the room and did it anyway, louder than ever. A lot of them were written up and suspended for the week without pay. They were told if it happened again, they'd be fired. As they were leaving, they passed by my desk and said that they would pray for me to find God and to learn to be more understanding of others who may not think like I do. I think my laughter offended them. Guys, I have nothing against religion and respect every single person's beliefs, but man, praying in the middle of a meeting loudly and then praying even louder when they thought they were being silenced, that's another level. It's pretty disrespectful. I can just hear them plotting a lawsuit right now. This story is titled, Karen Believes OP Can Read Minds. So, this happened a few years ago when I was 17 and working at my old job. I'm working at a very large electronic and appliance store as a sales assistant. I'm positioned in the printer and ink area for the day, and in walks a Karen. I approach her like we're supposed to do with every customer and said, "Hello, how may I help you today?" with my customer service voice and smile. Karen says, "I need ink for my printer." "Oh, that's fine. I just need you to tell me what model printer you have so I can give you your specific type of ink." I ask this because some models use a specific type of ink, so I need to Google which printer the customer has, and it tells me what number model of ink they need. She looks up at me, looking slightly shocked, and said, "Isn't it your job to know this?" I explained that I have to know what printer she has and that any old brand of ink isn't going to work because different printers use different sized ink cartridges. And she says, So you're telling me that you don't know what you're doing even though they're paying you to work here? Slightly more agitated, I say, there's no way for me to know what model printer you have at home. If you would please go home and take a picture of that model, I can then give you the exact ink cartridge that will work for you. She looks at me dead in the face and said, "You're so useless. I'm going to get you fired." I watch her first walk to the PC repairs guy and bark her Karen-eyed version of our encounter, then move on to the cashier girl and then to my floor manager before walking out. Now, my manager is an understanding guy and knows how crazy some of these people can be. She had told them that I was completely useless at my job and I need to be fired right away. Turns out that she came in the day after and then the day after that to just complain about me and to repeat her statement. I did not get into any sort of trouble for the encounter. Guys, I cannot believe Op is so useless. How dare he not be able to read Karen's mind? Guys, it happens more than you think in retail. I have a friend who works at Toyota as a parts advisor, and he actually has people get ticked off at him when he can't read their minds and tell them what they need. This next story is titled, Karen Attempts to Take Off the Customer's Mask. We were at the dreaded big box store picking up potted soil because we are going to DIY ourselves through the isolation. Things aren't crazy here yet, but there's a 2 per customer limit on a majority of items. I assume this means everything, so we're getting 2 bags of each on a few different types of soil. My husband is loading the last 8 bags on our cart when I hear her. I know it's a Karen just by the level of unnecessary outrage in her voice. Karen says, "Are you kidding me?" Not a lot of people out here in the garden center, but we all look to her. I was almost disappointed to see that she didn't come with a requisite haircut. She actually looked like a frazzled mom, her kid tugging on her hand and an overfull basket of groceries, and I had a moment of, "Girl, I feel you, but darn it." She was pointing at us. Karen says, "You can't buy that many, or you are hoarding." My husband says, "Yeah, we can. We're getting 2 each." Karen then responds, "Oh, you don't fool me. I know what you're doing." Husband replies, "So do I," and for her to go away. Well, Karen huffed at that. She spun around and yanked her kid back inside to go complain to the employee working at the register nearby. Now, we already paid for our items. The employee had come out and scanned the bags earlier. He could easily see our cart from inside. So, being finished, we pushed the cart out of the garden center into the parking lot, and then the automatic doors open, and behind us I hear, "Now they're stealing." Just great. We load the soil into the car and turn around to bring the cart back and look at plants. By the time we get back, Karen has given up on trying to convince the employee that we're the Bonnie and Clyde of dirt and is now trying to negotiate skipping somebody in line. She has a child, you see, and her handbasket, well, it's just so full and heavy. The woman that Karen's trying to skip in line is young, maybe college age, and wearing a face mask. Not a medical mask, but the stretchy kind you'd wear while riding a motorcycle or when you're skiing. The mask is black and has scary wolf teeth on it that honestly made the girl look like somebody you should not mess with, even though she was wearing a Gap t-shirt and flip-flops. The girl's just shaking her head no, and that's all we got as we dropped off the cart. I browse, pick up a couple of plants, and then we head inside to wait in line. Now it's showtime. Karen and the mask girl are near the register facing off, no pun intended. From the looks of things, mask girl has just finished her purchase, and Karen stopped her before she could leave. I don't know if she grabbed her or anything, but Karen was still holding her full handbasket, so she hadn't checked out yet. She hadn't paid for her groceries yet because clearly this woman had just checked out. Karen says, "But you don't even need it now, you're leaving. My son could get sick because you won't give it to him, and he needs it." Mask girl says, "You can't have it. Back off, lady." Now, Karen says, "But my son really likes it, and it's obviously made for boys anyway. Why would you even want to wear something so scary? I wear it because I like it, and it has my germs on it." Or why would you put a stranger's mask on your kid? Karen retorts with, "Why are you being so rude? You wouldn't let us go through the checkout first, and now you're making my son very upset." The masked girl turns to leave while Karen manifests the biggest guts ever and grabs the masked girl by the back of her mask. Let me make a side note here. While this is all going down, we're all just standing in line and watching. The register's still going boop 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 as the employee scans the items, but otherwise, we're all just inside this hypnotic bubble. When Karen reached out towards the masked girl, it was like the bubble popped and made everything crystal clear. Not slow-mo or anything, but I absolutely felt hyper-aware, like Spider-Man. Karen reaches out. People on both sides of me inhale loudly, and Karen grabs the mask and yanks. A lady on my right yells and my husband steps forward. Mask girl tucks her head down and then turns to Karen like a ticked-off bull with a bright and shiny new target. I think Karen was going to say something like "don't walk away from me" or something, but all she got out was "don't," and then we heard a crack. I looked around because the noise was so loud I figured the roof was about to cave in, but out of the corner of my eye I see Karen spasm and drop to the floor, writhing. Little Miss Mask Girl had a taser. I don't know when she pulled it out, this tiny little flashlight-looking thing, but she laid Karen out with it, and not one of us moved for what felt like forever. We were all frozen. The security guard shows up and more employees show up, and Masked Girl is chilling like she'd been through this before and knows what comes next. The kid is screaming like the wolf girl killed his mom, even though she's groaning and sobbing on the floor and clearly not dead. The people that had been in line with us were all talking at once, trying to tell the security guard what happened. We hung around just witnessing the insanity for maybe 2 more minutes before Karen started choking out demands for an ambulance, the police, a lawyer, the mayor, restitution, and reparations. My husband made eye contact with an employee and got a thumbs up when he put the plants on the shelves and pointed towards the door, and we got the heck out of there. We drove home in silence until my husband parked the car in our driveway, and we just burst out laughing. Neither of us had ever seen anything like that before. We live in a small beach town, people are super laid back and mellow, and Karen was anything but. And I hope to never see her again. Oh my goodness, Masked Girl is a freaking badass. So, one thing I've learned from reading these stories about entitled people is you never, ever, ever, ever put your hands on anybody. You don't ever grab anybody's arm, you don't grab their shirt, and now we know you definitely don't yank on the back of someone's face mask as they're walking away because you might get tasered. This next story is entitled Woman Tries to Get Family Evicted, and It Backfires. My boyfriend just told me the story, and I thought it belonged here. When he was 14, he was living with his mom and sister on a housing estate. It was summer, and he liked a bit of light in his upstairs bedroom, so he left the curtains open at all times. That included when he was getting dressed and after having a shower. So, if you purposely stared at his window, you could only see him from his waist up. Well, their neighbor did not like that one bit. She went pounding on the door, yelling at my mother-in-law that her son was a disgrace, that he was always hanging around naked and exposing himself to her daughter who's the same age as him. My mother-in-law told her that he had every right to do whatever he wanted in his bedroom, and that if she didn't want to see him, all she needed to do was to not look. A couple of days went by, and lo and behold, the police showed up at their door. It turned out the neighbor had been filming and taking pictures of my boyfriend to show the housing people as evidence of his wrongdoing to get them kicked out. But the funny part is, the housing office called the police on her for taking pictures and videos of an underage kid and kicked her and her family out. Oh, what was this lady thinking? That could have turned out to be really, really bad if she caught him buck naked and was trying to show evidence that the boy was indecently exposing himself to her daughter. So, this reminds me of something my grade 6 teacher used to say all the time. When kids would complain about things, he would always say, "Is it a problem or is it a you problem?" This story is titled, Where Did You Learn to Speak English? England. So, my stepmom is British, Welsh to be exact. For those who don't know, Wales is the little hump west of England and north of Cornwall. It's a beautiful place known for sheep, alcohol, and mistakes involving sheep and alcohol. My stepmom is ethnically Welsh, but raised in England. Despite this, my grandma and grandpa insisted on her and her brother learning Welsh to preserve their heritage. The Welsh are proud people, so they wanted to ensure their children were as immersed as they could be. So, she grew up bilingual. She went to uni and got a job working for a certain tech giant and moved to the US to help train their staff. A few years later, she met my dad and joined the family. At the time, I was still getting over my mom, so her presence was less than welcome. Despite this, my stepmom never pushed me or never tried to buy her way in. She gave me the room I needed to grieve, and when I was ready, showered me with enough affection to make up for lost time. She has my eternal love and respect for it, and has become my second mother. We live in a large town in the Midwest, being west of the seaboard but east of the Mississippi. So, while most people are open to outsiders, there's the usual few who just want to ruin everything. So, around Christmas time, I was visiting home from college with my girlfriend Charlie, enjoying some quality girls' time with my stepmom. We were in the mall, searching for some place that sold plastic modeling glue for my dad, as he's really into Warhammer. During this, my stepmom's on the phone with her brother, who still lives in the UK, catching up and sharing some laughs. They were speaking Welsh to each other, which happened to offend a woman who has since earned the title of Karen. We're standing in front of the mall map trying to find the hobby store when I heard a loud scoff from behind us. I turned to see a woman dressed in a rather nice-looking business suit, corralling her kids away like they just encountered a streaker. Now, I was ready to let it go, but Charlie can get very defensive of people she likes. So she ended up calling her out and said, "Something offend you, ma'am?" She seemed to ponder her next move before responding with that oh-so-stupid phrase. She said, "You're in America. When you're here, you speak English. My kids do not need to hear that." Now, I've met some pretty stupid people in my life. I've even dated one. But never have I ever heard of someone say something so idiotic. However, for someone to be so offended by someone speaking another language, they probably also didn't immerse themselves too much in other cultures. To her, the world probably began in New York and ended in Los Angeles. It was at this point that my stepmom hung up and she says, "Now, I know that Americans get a bad rap and all, but it doesn't help when you actively conform to the stereotype." Oh yeah, my stepmom has a British accent. And Karen says, "Oh my God, your accent is awful. Where did you even learn to speak English?" My stepmom held the most deadpan expression she could and said, "England. I swear I could smell the smoke coming from the flaming mess inside Karen's skull." She looked at Charlie and I, a pair of shockingly Caucasian college brats, and then my stepmom, our even paler chaperone, took a moment to process what she was doing and then walked away, dragging a group of embarrassed-looking teens with her. I have to give her credit, at least she knew when to quit. My stepmom chuckled, muttering an offensive-sounding Welsh phrase, and then helped us scan the map for a hobby shop. The rest of the day went well, and we had a funny story to tell my dad when we got back. To all my bigots out there who get offended when someone speaks another language, get over yourselves. The world doesn't revolve around you. To all my bilingual friends out there who speak their native tongues, good for you. It's important to keep your culture alive. And to Karen, next time you try to accost someone for speaking something other than English, don't. OP's stepmom handled that situation quite well. I've actually witnessed something like this happen at a Toys R Us a long time ago. Some lady yelled at a customer service rep because he wouldn't let her exchange something. The customer service rep had a pretty heavy French accent, I think, and she yelled at him saying that he should not even work there because he can barely speak the language. Oh my goodness, the things people will say when they don't get their way. I did not mean to rhyme there. This last story is titled, "My Mom Turned Her Guest Room into a Nursery After I Told Her She Will Never Meet My Child." I am currently pregnant with my first child, and both my mom and stepdad have been terrible to me and my partner the entire time. They told us that we would be unfit parents because we weren't married yet, and they legitimately screamed at my partner for knocking up their little girl, even though we planned the pregnancy. They would call him every day and harass him and show up at his work. They would try to convince him to leave me so I would have no choice but to move back in with them, and it got worse. As time went on, I finally decided to cut contact with them. Having a child can already be a stressful time, and having them around to make it worse was not something I was okay with. My partner and I have gone through a lot of family drama in the past couple of years, and having this baby has been one of the most exciting things for us. If my parents can't be nice to my partner, then they don't get to see our baby. Plus, they're the kind of people who don't wear masks in public and actively choose to be in large gatherings with no social distancing, so them seeing a newborn is out of the question. One day, I sent my mom a very detailed email of why she's not allowed to be a part of my life anymore and will not be seeing her grandchild. To make things even better, I also noted that we will be moving across country shortly after she's born to be closer to the other family members. So, not only is she cut off, but we're literally moving far away and never coming back. She responds by showing up at our house at 11 p.m., screaming outside our door about how it's her baby and she deserves to be there for it. Months go by and she'll text me randomly asking about problems with her Wi-Fi router or something random and needs help. My cousin also had a virtual baby shower and sent my invitation to my mom's house accidentally, so my mom came by to give it to me. Things slowly came to a point that we were fairly amicable with each other, but I still stood my ground about our boundaries and nothing else changed, and she knew this. Then, she sends me a video today that blew my mind. She redecorated her entire guest room to be a nursery. There was a crib, a changing table, $400 worth of newborn clothes, a toy chest, stroller, a car seat for her car, and the list goes on. In the video, she's in tears saying, "Oh my God, I can't believe my baby's gonna be here soon. This is where she'll sleep, where I'll change her diapers, and these will be her toys." Is she psychotic? Her baby sleeping and living at her house? What? So, I call her up immediately and reiterate that we're still moving across country soon and that she'll have no contact with the baby before that, and her response was, "Oh, okay, we'll see about that." I was genuinely confused. What part of you will have no contact with this baby does she not understand? Or does she think things will change in the next few weeks when she's born? Or is she planning to steal her from us? I'm at a total loss for words. Edit. I showed my partner the comments, and I think we're starting to take this more seriously, and I'll be contacting a lawyer on Monday. I wanted to mention a couple of things to clarify as well. I've been seeing a psychotherapist the past few months strictly due to the relationship I've had with my mother throughout my life, and all of that's documented. My midwife and hospital are also very aware of the situation and the emotional stress I've been going through, so we will definitely be utilizing this in the case that she tries to sue us or call CPS. Also, due to the virus, only my partner is allowed to be with me during the birth anyway. We'll be keeping things hush until after we move. We would have moved months ago if it was financially possible for us. We also spent a lot of money on my birth center that's non-refundable. She's due in August, and our lease ends in September, and we already have everything set up to move, and our other family is helping us out. Just a waiting game at this point. We are currently in a state that's against grandparents' rights. The only way she would be able to sue us for visitation is if both myself and my partner were deceased. Even after we move, she still cannot file for GPS if she's living in the state. These stories really got me thinking, and I'd like to share my perspective. I absolutely respect religious freedom, but the women in Religious Women with Rights at Work crossed a line by forcing their prayers into a professional meeting. I get devotion, yet interrupting my presentation and ignoring my discomfort? That's disrespectful. Kudos to HR for providing a private room. Balance is key, not entitlement. The Karen believes OP can read minds. Story cracks me up. I've worked retail and dealt with mind-reading demands. Expecting a teen to know your printer model without info? Absurd. I love how the manager backed the kid. Karens thrive on drama, but logic wins. Karen attempts to take off the customer's mask. Is wild. Yanking someone's mask is assault, plain and simple. I cheered for the mask girl tasing her. Self-defense at its finest. In a pandemic era, hands off. It reminds me, never touch strangers or face consequences. In Entitled Woman tries to get family evicted, and it backfires. The neighbor's creepy filming of a minor is horrifying. I'm glad it boomeranged, invading privacy to evict others. Twisted. You problem indeed. Staring isn't the boy's fault. Where did you learn to speak English? England is peak ignorance. Offended by Welsh? I adore the stepmom's deadpan roast. Xenophobia crumbles under facts. As a language lover, I say embrace multiculturalism. Bigots evolve. Finally, my mom turned her guest room into a nursery after I told her she will never meet my child. Chills me. Ignoring boundaries and harassing, that's toxic delusion. I support cutting contact, protect your family. Setting up a nursery screams denial. Get legal help ASAP. My friends, and that brings us to another end of our /entitled people. We made it. We survived. Guys, if you like this video, if you enjoyed the video, please give the video a thumbs up and leave a comment. If you missed the last episode of our /entitled people, a Karen thinks OP's private pool is for her use, go check it out if you haven't, and I'll see you guys in the next one.